The sun had barely risen over the planet Jira, casting long shadows across the massive arena that sprawled across the desert-like plains. The arena was not a simple field. It was a monument to power, skill, and pride. Species from all corners of the galaxy gathered here to watch, bet, and celebrate combat. The air buzzed with energy, the murmur of tens of thousands of spectators blending into a constant hum. Lyra, the Varkari champion, stood on the highest platform of the arena. Her scaled skin shimmered in shades of emerald and silver under the rising sun. Every muscle in her body was trained, honed, and ready for action. She was tall, stronger than most of the warriors who had faced her before. In her long years of battles, Lyra had never met an opponent who could even land a scratch. Her victories were celebrated across 3 star systems, and she carried her undefeated record like a crown. Today, however, she felt something unusual, a strange tension beneath the normal excitement of the crowd. Her sharp amber eyes scanned the audience. That's when she noticed him. He was a human. Not just any human. Alex Renshaw stood calmly at the edge of the spectator section, his hands casually resting at his sides. His posture was relaxed, almost careless, yet there was something in his gaze that made Lyra pause. He didn't seem afraid. He didn't seem impressed. Most species, even the brave or foolish ones, would tremble or cheer loudly when facing a champion like her. Not him. Lyra's lips curled into a small, sharp smile. Interesting, she murmured. She had heard tales about humans. They were weak, fragile, and usually overwhelmed in combat. Stories told of their tenacity, yes, but none had ever truly stood against a warrior of her level. Seeing Alex standing there, unshaken by her presence, sparked a curious thrill in her. A moment later, the arena announcer's voice boomed, echoing across the vast Colosseum. Today, the Varkari champion Lyra will face an unusual challenger. A human has entered the arena. Let the battle commence. The crowd erupted into cheers, gasps, and shocked murmurs. Humans in combat were rare, and anyone with sense knew that humans rarely survived long in battles against elite warriors. Most alien species had little reason to even train for human unpredictability. Until now. Lyra descended from her platform gracefully, her long tail balancing her as she moved. She approached the edge of the arena where Alex now stepped forward, calm and steady. "You," Lyra said, her voice smooth but edged with curiosity. "You are bold to step into the arena. Do you understand that this fight will not be easy?" Alex's eyes met hers. "I understand," he replied simply. His voice was calm, clear, and carried a quiet confidence that made the air feel heavier. The other spectators whispered among themselves. How could a human, so small, so seemingly weak, face a Varkari champion? Many shook their heads, some laughed quietly. No one truly expected this human to survive more than a few strikes. Lyra circled Alex slowly, observing him. She expected fear, hesitation, or even arrogance. What she found instead was nothing but calm focus. His hands were relaxed, his feet firmly planted, and his eyes sharp. She could see the mind behind those eyes working, analyzing, calculating. This is unusual, Lyra thought. She had fought many clever opponents before, but humans had a reputation for unpredictability, and there was something in him that hinted at it. The announcer raised a clawed hand high, signaling the start of the duel. "The combatants are ready. Begin." Lyra lunged forward immediately, her speed blurring her movements. Her first strike was precise and powerful, designed to test her opponent and end the fight quickly. She expected the human to stumble, falter, or fall. Instead, Alex stepped back just enough to avoid her strike. His movement was not fast, not flashy. It was deliberate and smart. The crowd gasped. One of the Varkari elders whispered, He didn't even flinch." Lyra's amber eyes widened in momentary surprise. This human, he moved differently than she expected. She adjusted instantly, increasing her speed, her strikes flowing into a seamless rhythm. She attacked with everything she had trained for, testing him relentlessly. But Alex remained calm. He dodged, sidestepped, and used small movements to avoid damage. He wasn't strong, he wasn't fast like her, but he was precise in his own way. He seemed to anticipate, to read her moves, almost as if he were learning from each strike as it happened. The crowd began to murmur in disbelief. How could this fragile human endure the attacks of Lyra, one of the most feared warriors in the galaxy? Whispers spread quickly. Is it possible for a human to survive a Varkari champion? Lyra paused for a fraction of a second and narrowed her eyes. This human was not ordinary. She had underestimated him, and now she felt a thrill she hadn't felt in years, a challenge worthy of her skill. She stepped back, circling him more carefully now. You are not like other humans, she said. Most would fall instantly. Most would beg for mercy. Alex shook his head. I fight to see how far I can go. Not for glory, not for fear. His calm, steady voice carried across the arena. The words resonated with some of the spectators. Humans were often underestimated, but they had this strange resilience. The duel continued. Lyra struck, fast and relentless, testing Alex in every possible way. He blocked, dodged, and evaded. His movements were not beautiful or strong, but they were clever, unexpected, and precise. The crowd was on edge, completely silent at times, cheering when he narrowly avoided a strike, gasping when he anticipated a movement no one else could. Hours, or perhaps minutes. Time seemed different here, passed. Lyra had expected to end the duel quickly, but now she realized this human had endurance. He was not giving up. Every strike she delivered, he adapted, learning and adjusting faster than any opponent she had ever faced. The Varkari warrior felt a strange mix of frustration and excitement. She had trained for centuries, faced opponents who were fast, strong, and clever, but never like this. Alex was different. He was unpredictable. He had strength in his mind where others relied only on muscle. Finally, Lyra stopped and raised a clawed hand. Enough for now, she said. Her breathing was steady, but her mind raced. You are human. And yet, you fight like nothing. I have seen. I want to continue this. I want a real challenge. Tomorrow, meet me here, one-on-one, full combat. Alex nodded. I will be here. His eyes were steady, calm, but there was a spark of curiosity in them. Curiosity about this alien, about the fight, and about the limits of what humans could do. As the crowd erupted in cheers, some in shock, some in admiration, Lyra returned to her platform. She looked out at the human in the audience section, still calm, still focused. A feeling she had not known in years stirred in her chest. Respect. And perhaps, for the first time in a long while, fear. The sun dipped lower over Jira, casting long shadows over the arena. Spectators began to leave, talking excitedly about the human who had survived the Varkari champion. Across the galaxy, news would travel fast. Humans were underestimated. Humans were dangerous. And Alex Renshaw had shown the first hint of that truth. Lyra stared at the horizon, her mind alive with strategy, anticipation, and curiosity. Tomorrow she would face him again. Tomorrow the duel would continue, and she would finally see what humans were truly capable of. For Alex, it was simple. He didn't seek fame. He didn't seek glory. He just wanted to see how far he could push himself to test the limits of human resilience, courage, and intelligence. The arena was big, the opponent was strong, but humans were clever, adaptable, and never predictable. And that, he knew, could be enough. The night fell on Zira, the arena now empty and silent, but the memory of a human standing calm in front of a Varkari champion would linger forever in the minds of those who had witnessed it. A new story had begun, one that would challenge assumptions, shake the galaxy, and remind everyone that humans, though small and fragile-looking, were never to be underestimated. The sun rose slowly over Zira, spilling warm orange light across the massive combat arena. Yesterday's duel had left a deep impression on the crowd and, more importantly, on Lyra. The Varkari champion had faced many opponents in her long life, yet this human had survived her full assault. That alone was astonishing. But there was something more. Something she could not ignore. Lyra sat in her private quarters, stretching her long, powerful limbs. Every movement was precise, practiced, a display of strength honed over centuries. She replayed the fight in her mind. Each strike, each dodge, each subtle movement of the human intrigued her. Alex Renshaw, human, had faced her without fear, without hesitation, and without a single careless mistake. It was unusual. Most warriors she faced relied on strength, speed, or intimidation. Alex relied on something else: intelligence, observation, adaptation. Lyra frowned slightly. Humans were considered weak, fragile creatures by most alien standards, yet here was one standing unshaken against a champion like her. Meanwhile, Alex returned to his quarters, his mind equally focused. He had survived the first encounter, but he knew that Lyra would be prepared next time. She was not only strong, she was smart, fast, and trained to defeat opponents like him. To survive the next duel, he needed more than endurance. He needed strategy. Alex began observing old recordings of previous Varkari duels. He studied her fighting style, noting patterns, tendencies, and favorite maneuvers. Every warrior had habits, and Lyra was no exception. He did not have her strength or her speed, but he had something else: adaptability. Humans were unpredictable in ways few other species could understand. In the days leading up to the rematch, the arena became a place of subtle tension. Other competitors, creatures of various shapes, sizes, and abilities, trained openly, preparing for future matches. Many whispered about the human. He survived a Varkari champion, they said. Impossible. Yet none of them understood the human's true strength: not muscle, not claws, not speed, but his mind. Lyra trained harder than she had in years. She practiced her strikes, refined her footwork, and sharpened her reflexes. She studied the arena itself, visualizing every corner, every obstacle, imagining how a clever opponent might use the environment. Her pride demanded victory, but curiosity urged her to understand this human. Alex, on the other hand, trained differently. He did not try to match Lyra's strength. No human could. Instead, he practiced agility, observation, and clever movements. He experimented with timing and distance, finding ways to redirect energy, avoid attacks, and use his surroundings. He studied the environment of the arena, imagining traps, distractions, and unexpected angles. On the morning of the rematch, the arena was buzzing with anticipation. Spectators from across the galaxy filled the stands, creatures of all colors, shapes, and sizes, eager to see the human fight again. Many doubted he would last even 5 minutes. Others were curious. Could a human really survive against a Varkari champion? Lyra appeared first, her presence commanding attention. The sunlight reflected off her scales, making her shimmer like a living jewel. Her muscles rippled as she moved, a clear display of power. She surveyed the crowd, then looked directly at Alex. He stood calmly in the opposite corner, hands relaxed at his sides, eyes observing every detail. "You are ready," Lyra said, her voice low, but carrying authority. "But remember, I have learned from our first fight. This time, I will not hold back." Alex smiled faintly. "I expect nothing less," he replied, calm, steady, and unshaken. The duel began. Lyra lunged immediately, faster than yesterday. She combined a series of strikes with precise footwork, aiming to overwhelm Alex from the start. His first instinct was to observe, then evade. He did not try to match her speed or strength. He simply avoided the blows, using clever sidesteps and small movements to stay just out of reach. The crowd gasped as Lyra's attacks landed dangerously close to him. One strike brushed past his shoulder, sending a jolt of wind through his hair. Another was so close his heart raced, but he adapted, adjusted, and moved in ways the Varkari did not expect. Lyra's frustration grew. This human was not just surviving, he was learning. Every strike he avoided, Every move he countered, he did so with intelligence. It was unlike any opponent she had faced. Normally, a warrior would falter under such pressure, but Alex remained focused, his mind working faster than most could follow. He used small, almost invisible movements to redirect Lyra's energy. When she struck with incredible force, he shifted slightly, letting her momentum carry her past him instead of meeting it head-on. It was a small tactic, but it confused her. Lyra had never faced anyone who did not simply attack or defend in the way she expected. The fight continued for what felt like hours. Lyra was powerful and fast, striking with skill honed over countless battles. Alex was weaker in comparison, slower, and less physically capable, but his movements were clever, unpredictable, and adaptive. He anticipated patterns, feints, and timing. He never overcommitted. Every motion was calculated, every step purposeful. The spectators were on edge. Many whispered, unable to believe what they were seeing. "The human, he's surviving," one said. "He's learning from her," another exclaimed. Even seasoned warriors were astonished. They had seen humans before, fragile and weak. Yet here was one standing calmly, evading attacks from the galaxy's fiercest warrior. Lyra's eyes narrowed. She had underestimated this human yesterday, and now she realized the truth. Humans were not predictable. They were not the weakest species. They had something unique: cleverness, adaptability, and endurance. She felt a mixture of admiration, respect, and challenge. This was a human worthy of her attention. Alex, meanwhile, noticed small things in Lyra's movements. A slight tilt of her shoulder before a strike, the rhythm of her footwork, the way her tail adjusted for balance. He began to anticipate her moves just enough to create small openings. He was not trying to win through brute force. He had no hope of matching her strength. But he could survive, and maybe, just maybe, turn the fight in his favor with strategy. The fight reached a critical point. Lyra executed a rapid series of attacks, each faster and more precise than the last. Most opponents would have fallen in seconds, but Alex adapted. He dodged, twisted, and used her momentum against her. A small nudge, a step aside, a subtle shift in balance. Each minor action allowed him to survive where others would fail. For a moment, the Varkari warrior paused, breathing heavily. "How?" she muttered under her breath. No opponent had ever adapted so quickly, so effectively. Every movement she made, he countered in his own subtle way. Alex, sensing a momentary hesitation, remained calm. He did not strike. He did not overcommit. He simply observed, waiting, learning, and preparing for the next phase of the duel. The crowd erupted in excitement. Even the most skeptical spectators could no longer deny the human's skill. They cheered, gasped, and whispered, amazed by the cleverness, focus, and endurance of one seemingly fragile species. Lyra realized something important. Brute strength alone would not guarantee victory. She needed to anticipate, adapt, and respect her opponent's intelligence. This human was teaching her something she had never learned in centuries of battle, that true strength could be mental as well as physical. As the duel ended for the day, the announcer raised his voice, echoing through the arena. "The match concludes for now. Both warriors have shown incredible skill and courage. Tomorrow they will face off again." Lyra returned to her quarters, exhausted but exhilarated. She had faced many opponents in her life, yet this human had challenged her in a way no one else ever had. She felt respect, admiration, and a renewed sense of purpose. Alex, in his quarters, reviewed the fight in his mind. He had survived, yes, but he also knew that tomorrow's duel would demand more. Lyra would be prepared. She would strike with everything she had. He needed to remain clever, adaptive, and ready for anything. Both warriors, different in every way, shared a silent understanding. This was more than a fight. It was a test, a challenge, and a learning experience. And in that moment, both realized the galaxy had underestimated humans for far too long. The sun set on Zira, casting a warm glow over the arena, The creatures of the galaxy went to their homes, talking excitedly about the human who had survived the Varkari champion. Lyra prepared for tomorrow. Alex strategized for tomorrow. And the story of a human's intelligence, resilience, and courage continued to grow. The galaxy was about to witness something extraordinary. The arena of Zero was alive with energy once again. Creatures from hundreds of star systems packed the stands, their voices a cacophony of excitement, curiosity, and disbelief. Yesterday, a human had survived the attacks of Lyra, the undefeated Varkari champion. Today, everyone was eager to see if he could do it again. Lyra emerged first, her scales glittering under the twin suns of Zira. Her movements were sharp, precise, and purposeful. She radiated strength, and the sheer force of her presence silenced much of the crowd. She climbed to the center of the arena, flexing her claws, muscles rippling under the bright light. Today, she would not hold back. From the opposite corner, Alex Renshaw stepped forward calmly. He did not rush. He did not show fear. His human form was small compared to Lyra's towering frame, but he carried an aura of quiet confidence that made many spectators sit up straighter. Humans were rare in these arenas, and this human, had survived against one of the galaxy's strongest warriors. The announcer's voice boomed across the arena. Let the duel begin. Lyra versus Alex Renshaw, the human. A sudden hush fell over the crowd. Every eye focused on the two combatants as they assumed their positions. Lyra lunged first, her claws slicing through the air with terrifying speed. Her strike was designed to end the fight in an instant. Most opponents would have fallen under the precision and power of her attack. But Alex didn't panic. He twisted his body slightly, letting the edge of her strike graze past him and rolled to the side. The audience gasped. The Varkari champion, famed for defeating countless warriors in seconds, had just missed the human by a hair's width. Lyra's amber eyes narrowed. He's faster than I thought. He's observing. She launched another series of strikes, this time combining speed with deceptive angles. Each claw, each kick, was calculated to find a gap in his defense. Alex moved carefully, studying each strike. He didn't try to block everything head-on. Instead, he let her momentum carry her slightly past him, stepping at just the right angle to avoid injury. When necessary, he used quick pushes against the ground to maintain balance and redirect her energy. Humans were not the strongest, but they had a strange agility, a cleverness that other species often underestimated. The crowd erupted in murmurs. Whispers of disbelief passed among the spectators. He's dodging her strikes, one said. Impossible, muttered another. Even seasoned warriors in the stands leaned forward, intrigued. Lyra growled, frustration flashing in her eyes. Most of her opponents would have faltered by now. Most would have panicked. But Alex remained calm, his eyes studying her every move. She realized then what she had suspected. Humans weren't predictable. They could adapt, anticipate, and survive in ways few others could. Alex saw an opening, a small gap in her defense as she shifted her weight forward for a strike. He moved quickly, sidestepping and sliding behind her. He didn't attack. He didn't need to. The movement alone disrupted her balance just enough to make her stumble slightly. The crowd roared. The Varkari champion, who had never faltered, had just lost her footing for a fraction of a second. Lyra's amber eyes flashed with intensity. She corrected her stance instantly, claws snapping, tail balancing her, and lunged again. This time, Alex met her with a feint, a small step forward and then a sudden sidestep, using her speed against her. It was clever, subtle, and effective. Lyra's movements were precise, but the human's unpredictability frustrated her. She could strike, harder, faster, and more accurately than any opponent. Yet Alex adapted. He was not just surviving, he was learning. For Alex, every moment was observation. He noted the slight wind patterns caused by her movements, the rhythm of her footwork, the way her tail shifted for balance. Each small detail became a tool, allowing him to avoid attacks that would have crushed almost anyone else. Lyra's strikes grew more aggressive, more relentless. She did not understand why her usual tactics were failing. She adjusted, throwing combinations in new patterns, testing different angles, trying to anticipate his movements. Yet Alex's human unpredictability kept him a step ahead, or at least alive. The duel reached a critical point. Lyra unleashed a flurry of strikes designed to overwhelm him completely, each one faster than the last. Most opponents would have been hit multiple times in a matter of seconds. Alex dodged and weaved, using tiny shifts in weight and direction to avoid damage. His strategy was not strength, it was precision, timing, and adaptability. The spectators could hardly believe what they were seeing. Humans were not supposed to survive against Varkari warriors, let alone outmaneuver them. Yet Alex was doing it, again and again. The murmurs of excitement grew into shouts, cheers, and astonished laughter. Lyra's frustration reached a peak. She realized that brute strength alone would not win this fight. She needed to anticipate his moves, think like him, and adapt quickly. For the first time, she felt challenged, not physically, but mentally. Alex had forced her to see beyond muscle, beyond speed, beyond the typical rules of combat. Sweat formed along her scales, her breathing steady but faster than normal. Every strike she delivered was met with a calculated dodge, a clever sidestep, or a subtle counter-movement. Alex had turned defense into offense in the most intelligent way possible. Then something surprising happened. Alex used a small environmental trick. He nudged a loose stone with his foot, causing it to roll into bar. Her path. Lyra, in her rapid assault, stepped on it briefly and slipped. She recovered immediately, but the momentary disruption gave Alex an opening. He lunged forward, but instead of striking her, he used a quick push to redirect her momentum away from him, forcing her to adjust her balance again. The crowd erupted. This human was not only surviving, but manipulating the environment cleverly against one of the deadliest warriors in the galaxy. Lyra stopped, breathing heavily, her amber eyes flashing with both respect and irritation. She had underestimated humans, and now she knew the truth. They were dangerous in ways she had never expected. Alex remained calm, almost serene. "You're stronger than anyone I've ever faced," he said quietly, almost to himself. But Lyra heard him. But strength alone is not enough. It was a simple statement, yet it carried weight. Lyra realized that Alex was not just defending himself. He was teaching her something new, a lesson about intelligence, adaptability, and strategy. She had trained for centuries, defeated countless opponents, yet this human had survived her best attacks without showing weakness. The duel continued. Lyra tried new techniques, unpredictable combinations, and powerful strikes designed to overwhelm him completely. Alex adapted, moved, and learned. Each attack she threw, he studied, turning apparent weakness into opportunity. The crowd was on the edge of their seats. Many had never seen anything like this. The Varkari champion, feared across star systems, was being challenged in a way no one thought possible, and the human, he was more than surviving. He was thriving, using intelligence and cleverness as his greatest weapon. As the sun reached its highest point in the sky, the duel showed no sign of ending. Both warriors were exhausted, yet neither relented. Lyra's movements became sharper, faster but also more calculated. Alex's responses were precise, measured, and adaptive. They were learning from each other in real time. For the first time in centuries, Lyra realized that a fight was not just about strength. It was about understanding, observation, and intelligence. And this human, small, fragile, underestimated, was teaching her that lesson in the harshest, most impressive way possible. The arena erupted in a mixture of cheers, gasps, and stunned silence. Aliens of all kinds whispered among themselves. Some had bet heavily on Lyra. Others had secretly hoped the human would survive, intrigued by the idea that humans could be clever enough to face such a champion. And in the center of the arena, two warriors faced each other. One strong, one clever, both determined. The duel was no longer just about victory. It had become a test of wits, endurance, and adaptability. Lyra's amber eyes met Alex's human gaze. For the first time, she felt something she had never felt before in combat: respect. He was clever, resilient, and unpredictable. The Varkari champion had met her match, not in strength, but in intellect and adaptability. The crowd could sense it too. The energy in the arena shifted. This was no longer a simple duel. This was an extraordinary confrontation that would be remembered for generations. Humans had always been underestimated, and Alex was proving why. The duel paused briefly, as both warriors stepped back, breathing heavily. Lyra's tail swished behind her, and Alex wiped a bead of sweat from his brow. Neither had struck a decisive blow, yet both knew that the fight had already changed something fundamental. Respect had been earned. Minds had been tested, and the galaxy was watching as humans, small, seemingly fragile, but clever and adaptable, continued to challenge assumptions, break expectations, and redefine what was possible. The arena of Zyra was silent, the tension almost tangible. Both warriors, Lyra, the undefeated Varkari champion, and Alex, the human who had already stunned the galaxy by surviving her attacks, stood facing each other, each breathing heavily, but eyes locked in unwavering focus. The first strike of the duel had already proven one thing: Alex was clever, patient, and adaptable. But now, Lyra's frustration had grown into determination. She was no longer testing him. She was attacking with full power, using everything in her arsenal. Her claws glinted in the sunlight, her tail lashed with deadly precision, and her movements were a blur of speed and strength. Alex, however, had learned from the first half of the battle. He did not simply dodge anymore. He began using the arena itself as a weapon. Rocks, sand, and uneven terrain became tools in his hands. When Lyra lunged, he would shift slightly, letting her momentum carry her past him and onto a patch of slippery sand. She would stumble, regain balance, and strike again, only to find that Alex had anticipated her adjustments. The crowd was in awe. No one had ever seen a human fight like this. They were not fast, not overwhelmingly strong, but every movement was precise, every choice calculated. The aliens who had been dismissive yesterday now whispered nervously to each other. "He is using her strength against her," one said. "Impossible," said another. Lyra's amber eyes narrowed. She had trained for centuries, faced thousands of opponents, and yet this human was making her fight differently. Every instinct she had relied on, speed, power, and intimidation, was being challenged. She had to think faster, adapt more quickly, and anticipate what seemed unpredictable. Alex saw an opening. Lyra had become slightly overconfident, assuming her strength alone could break him. She lunged forward, claws extended for a heavy strike, aiming for his side. Alex moved, just enough to let her momentum carry her past, then slid a rock with his foot, causing her to lose balance for a moment. He quickly sidestepped and shifted to a better angle, ready to avoid her next move. The audience erupted in cheers. Even seasoned warriors whispered among themselves, amazed by the human's cleverness. Alex wasn't just surviving. He was using strategy and the environment to influence the battle. Lyra paused, breathing heavily. Her pride refused to accept that she was being outmaneuvered by a human. "Clever," she muttered under her breath, almost to herself. "But I will not lose." She launched another series of attacks, faster and more complex than before. Every strike was a test, every combination designed to overwhelm him. Alex dodged, ducked, and twisted, using small shifts of his body to turn her power against her. Each time he learned from her movements, adjusting for the next attack. Humans could not match alien strength directly, but they could think, adapt, and find ways to survive, and even gain the upper hand. A sudden idea struck Alex. He noticed a high platform in the arena, a vantage point Lyra had used during her previous fights to demonstrate dominance. If he could lure her onto it, he might be able to use her own weight and momentum against her. He dodged a particularly strong claw swipe, then stepped to the side, retreating slightly. Lyra, sensing the slight retreat as weakness, lunged forward, aggressively. Her powerful legs propelled her toward the platform, claws ready to strike Alex. But Alex had planned this. As she stepped onto the platform, her momentum carried her forward too quickly and she stumbled slightly, trying to regain balance. Alex didn't strike. He simply moved to a better position. But that tiny misstep had given him an opening. He darted around her, positioning himself so that her next attack would land slightly off target, forcing her to correct herself again. The arena erupted in excitement. Aliens of all species leaned forward, their eyes wide. They had never seen anything like this. The human was not only surviving, but beginning to dictate the flow of the fight. Lyra's tail lashed, knocking away small rocks that Alex had used as distractions. She was adapting, realizing that she could not rely on brute force alone. Her attacks became more careful, calculated, each strike designed not just to hit him, but to test his reactions. Alex mirrored her adjustments. He was learning her patterns, her favored sequences, and her rhythm. Every movement he made was precise, using minimal effort to achieve maximum advantage. His human mind worked quickly, analyzing, predicting, and exploiting. For a moment, both warriors paused, circling each other carefully. Sweat ran down Lyra's scales. Her breathing was heavy but controlled. Alex wiped a bead of sweat from his brow, his eyes calm, sharp, and focused. They were no longer just fighters. They were students of each other, learning, adapting, and evolving with every move. Then Lyra struck again, faster than ever. Alex responded instinctively, dodging and twisting. But this time he used a new tactic. He feigned a stumble, tricking Lyra into overextending. She lunged, claws extended, expecting him to be off balance. But Alex rolled to the side at the last second, allowing her momentum to carry her forward and off-center. He seized the moment. With a swift, calculated push, he redirected her motion, slightly, causing her to lose her footing entirely. Lyra barely regained balance, but it had taken precious seconds. Seconds Alex could exploit. The crowd gasped. For the first time, they saw the human control the pace of the fight. He wasn't stronger or faster, but he was clever. He was unpredictable. He was turning the Varkari champion's own power against her. Lyra's eyes flashed with a mix of surprise and admiration. This human. He was unlike any opponent she had faced. He wasn't trying to match her strength. He was thinking, planning, and using every opportunity wisely. She adjusted her approach. No more brute force, no more predictable strikes. Her movements became more subtle, more strategic. Each strike was a test, designed to probe, confuse, and challenge. Alex responded with equal intelligence, countering, redirecting, and avoiding. The duel intensified. Dust swirled around them as claws met air, feet dug into sand, and momentum shifted constantly. Neither warrior could predict the next move fully. Every action was a combination of strength, strategy, and quick thinking. Then Alex saw it. A small weakness in her pattern. Lyra had a habit of tilting slightly before swinging her left claw with full force. It was tiny, almost unnoticeable, but enough for him to exploit. He waited for the moment, dodged just at the right time, and used her momentum to move her slightly off balance. The effect was subtle, but immediate. Lyra's attack missed, and for a brief moment she was exposed. Alex did not strike aggressively. He simply positioned himself advantageously, forcing her to adjust quickly or risk losing control. Lyra realized then that this human was not just surviving. He was learning, adapting, and responding in ways she had never encountered. He was turning the fight into a mental challenge, a test of wits as much as skill. She paused, breathing heavily, tail swishing behind her. Respect filled her chest. She had underestimated humans for centuries. They were not just weak, fragile creatures. They were intelligent, adaptive, and capable of turning situations in their favor, even against overwhelming odds. Alex remained calm, ready for the next move. He knew he could not overpower her physically, but he could outthink her, exploit, small openings, and use clever tactics to control the flow of the battle. The spectators were on their feet, cheering wildly. They had never seen anything like this. A human was challenging a Varkari champion and succeeding in ways that defied every expectation. As the duel continued, it became clear that the fight had shifted. Lyra, once in full control, was now being tested by the human's intelligence and adaptability. Every strike, every movement, every dodge was a lesson. And Alex, small and seemingly fragile, had proven that humans were not to be underestimated. For the first time, Lyra's amber eyes met his calm gaze and held it with acknowledgement. Respect, admiration, and challenge flickered in her expression. This human had turned the tables. The duel was no longer a simple fight. It was a demonstration of human ingenuity, adaptability, and resilience. The sun began to dip in the sky, casting long shadows across the arena. Both warriors paused briefly, breathing heavily, eyes locked. Neither had claimed victory yet, but something fundamental had changed. The human had proven that strength alone was not enough. Intelligence, strategy, and adaptability could turn the tide. And the Varkari champion had learned, perhaps for the first time, that humans were extraordinary opponents in ways the galaxy had never truly appreciated. The arena of Zero was alive with anticipation. News of the human who had survived the Varkari champion had spread across the galaxy. Spectators crowded into the stands, cheering, whispering, and holding their breath. Today was the final duel, the decisive clash that would determine not just a winner, but the truth about human resilience and ingenuity. Lyra, the Varkari champion, stood in the center of the arena, her scales gleaming under the twin suns, her muscles tensed, her tail swishing, behind her with deadly precision. She had faced countless warriors in her life, yet today she felt something she had never felt before: uncertainty. This human, Alex Renshaw, was different, clever, adaptive, and relentless. From the opposite corner, Alex stepped forward calmly. His movements were relaxed, but his eyes were sharp, scanning Lyra and the arena. He was not the strongest, not the fastest, yet he carried an air of quiet determination. The crowd fell silent, sensing that something extraordinary was about to happen. The announcer's voice echoed through the arena. The final duel begins. Lyra versus Alex Renshaw. Lyra lunged immediately, claws glinting. Her attacks were faster and more precise than ever, a combination of raw power and calculated strategy. She had learned from their previous encounters, adapting her style to challenge the human's cleverness. Alex moved with focus. He didn't try to match her strength. Instead, he relied on what humans excelled at: strategy, observation, and adaptability. Every dodge, sidestep, and shift of weight was deliberate, designed to avoid injury while learning her patterns. The crowd gasped as Lyra's strikes narrowly missed him. For the first time, spectators whispered not about her dominance, but about the human's extraordinary skill. They leaned forward, watching closely as he used intelligence to survive where raw power would have failed. The duel intensified. Lyra attacked with fury, claws slicing through the air, her tail lashing like a whip. Alex dodged, rolled, and adjusted constantly. He noticed small changes in her rhythm, the way her balance shifted, the slight tilt of her shoulders before a strike. Each observation gave him a tiny advantage, just enough to stay one step ahead. Then Alex saw the perfect opening. Lyra, confident in her strength, overextended during a rapid series of strikes. Her claws were extended, her balance slightly off, and her focus momentarily on the expected dodge, exactly what Alex had been waiting for. He acted quickly. Using a combination of precise movement and environmental advantage, Alex redirected her momentum. A small rock, nudged subtly with his foot, caused her to slip slightly on the sandy arena floor. In that split second, Alex moved forward, not to strike with brute force, but to leverage her imbalance. Lyra's amber eyes widened in surprise. She regained balance, but the momentary advantage gave Alex an opening for a controlled move. He used a simple push, not to injure, but to guide her off center. The human's cleverness had turned her own power against her. and for a fraction of a second, the champion was exposed. The crowd erupted. Aliens of all species cheered, gasped, and whispered. They had never seen a human control a fight against a Varkari champion so effectively. It was not about strength. It was about intellect, timing, and adaptability. Humans, once underestimated, were proving their worth in spectacular fashion. Lyra's breathing was heavy. Her tail lashed behind her and her amber eyes burned with focus and respect. She realized something she had never truly accepted before. Humans were dangerous not because of brute strength, but because of their intelligence, creativity, and unpredictability. Alex didn't strike aggressively. He didn't need to. The humans' ability to remain calm, think quickly, and use subtle tactics had shifted the battle. Lyra, once in full control, now had to defend against clever strategies she could not easily predict. The duel continued with breathtaking intensity. Lyra's strikes were powerful, precise, and deadly, yet Alex avoided every major blow with ingenuity. He used feints, timing, and the environment to his advantage. A misstep here, a shift of weight there, a subtle use of the terrain. Each move demonstrated humans' unique ability to adapt under pressure. Lyra tried to regain dominance. She altered her strategy, combining brute strength with clever tactics of her own. But Alex anticipated these changes. He observed, adapted, and responded. Every strike she threw, he found a way to survive and reposition. Humans may have lacked her raw power, but their intelligence allowed them to turn the tables. Then came the decisive moment. Lyra launched a rapid attack, faster and more dangerous than any before. Her claws glinted as they aimed for Alex's side, her tail ready to strike simultaneously. It was a move designed to overpower any opponent. Alex anticipated it. Using the slight tilt in her shoulders and the momentum of her forward strike, he shifted just enough to avoid a direct hit. At the same time, he nudged another rock subtly placed during the duel. Lyra stepped on it, causing her to lose balance again. This time, Alex did not simply dodge. He moved with precision, positioning himself at her side, guiding her momentum, in a controlled way that left her temporarily off balance. He did not strike with lethal force. He simply created an opening that Lyra could not recover from immediately. The crowd fell silent. Even the most skeptical spectators could not believe what they were seeing. The human had not overpowered her with strength. He had outsmarted her, used the arena, and turned her own power into a disadvantage. Lyra paused, breathing heavily, her amber eyes locking with Alex's calm, determined gaze. She realized then that this human had achieved something extraordinary. He had shown her a truth she had never fully understood. Humans were exceptional, not because of raw strength, but because of intelligence, creativity, and resilience. Slowly, she lowered her claws. The tension in her body eased slightly. "Enough," she said quietly, her voice carrying across the arena. "You have proven yourself." Alex nodded, calm and respectful. He had survived, adapted, and demonstrated the ingenuity that made humans so formidable. He did not need to strike a final blow. The duel itself had already shown the outcome. The crowd erupted in cheers, shouts, and applause. Spectators from across the galaxy were stunned, witnessing a human not only survive but challenge the Varkari champion and force respect from the undefeated warrior herself. Lyra rose to her full height, her breathing steadying. She approached Alex, her movements no longer aggressive but measured. She extended a clawed hand, not in attack but in acknowledgement. "You are remarkable," she said, her voice filled with respect. "Humans are more capable than I ever imagined. I misjudged you and your species." Alex shook her hand, smiling faintly. "Thank you. I fight to test myself, not to prove anything to others. But I am glad you see the value in human resilience." The spectators cheered again, witnessing not only a duel but the birth of a legend. A human had stood against one of the most feared warriors in the galaxy and emerged not defeated, but victorious in spirit. Lyra stepped back, giving Alex space. Her eyes shone with admiration. I have fought countless opponents. None have challenged me as you did. Your intelligence, adaptability, and courage are extraordinary. The galaxy should never underestimate humans again. Alex nodded humbly. I do not seek glory. I fight to learn, to survive, and to see what humans can achieve when pushed to the limits. The announcer's voice rang out over the arena. Ladies and gentlemen, creatures of the galaxy, today history has been made. A human has survived the Varkari champion and shown the galaxy the strength of his species, not in brute force but in intelligence, courage, and adaptability. The crowd erupted in unrestrained cheers, applause, and shouts. Spectators waved, flags hooted and celebrated the extraordinary display of human ingenuity. Even Lyra joined the applause, her tail swishing slowly behind her in admiration. As the sun set over Zira, painting the sky in shades of orange and red, the story of the human who had survived the Varkari champion spread across star systems. Humans were no longer underestimated. They were recognized as clever, resilient, and unpredictable, a species capable of extraordinary feats. Alex walked calmly out of the arena, leaving Lyra and the cheering crowd behind. He had proven something fundamental. Humans could survive, adapt, and even outsmart opponents far stronger and faster than themselves. Lyra watched him go, a deep respect filling her heart. She had faced many warriors, but none like him. She realized that strength alone was not enough to define a warrior. It was courage, intelligence, and adaptability that truly mattered. And humans, she now knew, embodied those qualities in ways the galaxy had never fully understood. The legend of the duel would be told for generations, a human standing calmly against a Varkari champion, not with overwhelming strength, but with wit, strategy, and resilience. The galaxy had witnessed the unexpected and been forever changed by it.